Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Ives number FB458 B3. This is a typical and common manual extension or lever extension type flush bolt is what it is. And quite frankly, the FB458 is the ubiquitous, most common manual flush bolt that you'll see. Ives, the name is synonymous with these sorts of flush bolts, and you will again see this everywhere. If you're looking for a flush bolt that's in a commercial door and you're not sure which one it is, it's probably the FB458. Let's go over it. FB458, FB flush bolt. The 458 is the part number of this item. This is going to have a 6 3/4 long body, along with it being 1 inch wide. And those two dimensions are really its DNA, so to speak. If you've got a 6 3/4 by 1 prep, this is probably it. The last and final dimension that you typically need to know is what's the top of the door to the center of this flush bolt, and that will give you the length. The item that you're looking at is likely a 12 inch, and that means it will include a threaded rod so that when it's installed, the top of the door to the center of the faceplate will indeed be 12 inch. Now Ives can do these in 18 inch, 24 inch, 30 inch, 36 inch, and so on. Why would you want a longer threaded rod? Well, for a 6'8" or a 7-foot door, you can reach your hand up and catch that, most likely. But if it's an 8-foot door, you're not going to be able to, or a taller door, and that's where the rods get longer to account for that. So it's not uncommon to need longer rods. This client happens to need 36-inch length, so the rods are sold separately at 3 foot long, or whatever length. They can get even longer than that. It's also going to include, this bolt head is going to be included, and that will go onto the end of the rod that will stick either out of the top of the door or the bottom of the door. They're the same flush bolt regardless of where they're going to be installed, which of course makes it simple from that sort of approach. You'll get the typical 12-inch threaded rod. You'll get the bolt head, and that bolt head has a non-circular shape, and I'll explain why in a moment. You will get a package of machine screws that are machine wood combination type screws. You get a couple that are unfinished because you will not see the guide that's either mortised or prepped to the top of the door or to the bottom of the door. That's where those unfinished screws go. Now you'll see that D-prep, and that's just like that for a reason. That you don't want that bolt to unthread inside the door. Lots of times what happens is that will work its way loose, and then all of a sudden it comes off, and then the rod is abandoned inside the door. Then you'll get another 6 screws, 4 for the face, and then 2 more for the strike. That can be mortised into the head or attached to the floor, the threshold, whatever the case is. Now the FB458, as I had said earlier, is quite ubiquitous, and what I mean is you see it everywhere naturally, but really its intended application is in steel doors. That's where you ought to be seeing the FB458, and very likely non-fire rated steel doors like you'd have on an exterior. Sometimes these will go on to fire rated doors when the code permits an inactive door to be used with a manual bolt for an application like perhaps an electrical closet where no people are living on the other side. Perhaps there might be restrictions on the room size, something like that. You can sometimes use a manual bolt, but steel doors is where you'll see them. Now, you will see them in reality on far more many wood doors than you do steel doors. The reason why you do so is because they're so common, but the FB458 is really not the best choice for a wood door when compared to Ives FB438. Pardon me. Their FB358 is the proper part number for the wood style. FB358, indeed, that's the proper or the better choice for a wood door. Here's why. There's a link below this video to a document called Cut Sheet, and that will give you the important dimensional properties of the flush bolt beyond what I've already given. But as you see that, you can kind of tell that you need to have access to the inside of that door to get this item installed. Now, if you're simply replacing a unit on a metal door, that's great. There's really nothing to be concerned with. You just remove the 4 screws. You'll be able to then take the entire body and just tug it out and literally pull it down out of the cavity or the preparation in the edge of the door. If you're doing a wood door, same sort of situation if you're replacing it. The difference really comes in why you ought to use the FB458 if it's a wood door is when you're doing a new installation. You have to prep, in a wood door, you have to do 2 preps with your router for this. This will be the body, which will be, you know, whatever you need for this, and then down to about here, whatever that all templates out to be. Then a second prep for just the faceplate, the 6 3/4 by 1 by the thickness of this. That's the easy part. How do you drill the top of the door 12-inch down when you've got 2 disparate densities of woods typically on top of each other, the style and then the core, and then get that drilled straight enough where you can get a rod down into it? That's the hard part. It's not hard if you've got the right tools, and they do make tools for doing it. Very long drill bits naturally. A guide that you can fix to the edge of the door for drilling that hole. But if you don't have those tools, stop. Get the FB458 because that can be done purely with a router. It can technically be done with just a chisel and hammer, I suppose. You wouldn't want to ever do that. So the FB458 is really not proper for wood doors and new installations. If you need to install it, feel free to call. I've mortised for that in wood doors. In wood doors more times than I can possibly recall. But you do need some special tools to help you get there. Otherwise, the FB358 is the one you want. Now, referring to that, there's a link below this video to a document called Product Catalog and Product Brochure, and that will show you the FB458 along with all of its sister products, namely the FB358, which is on a page or 2 before it, and you'll be able to see by its corner design how it's more appropriate for a wood door application. This is going to be available in all of the common finishes, your chromes, your brasses, your bronze, nickels. You'll be able to do this in oil rub bronze as well. And it's a very fine piece of hardware, solid brass face. You can tell, or at least if you look at enough brass, cast brass material, you can tell that that's solid brass base material that's there. Okay. Description down below this video, manual top or bottom flush bolt for metal doors. They give you the body size, 6 3/4 by 1. The guide size, the strike size, that's all there. Let me just throw a tape measure on that. The strike is going to be typical 2 1/4. And the width is, they call it 15/16. That's because that's what it is, forgive me. The guide, that's going to be 2-inch long, 1-inch wide. Metal door, you'll obviously want to have this prepped, the top or bottom of your door to receive this, and you absolutely want that D-shaped guide installed there. When the active door is opened, the lever can be removed into the up position, depending on if it's top or bottom mounted, retracting the bolt and allowing the inactive leaf to be opened. When the inactive leaf is closed, the lever can be moved to the down position, projecting the latch bolt or the bolt up, throwing the entire assembly up into the header. Okay. Simplified installation in metal frames. That's just a prep where you're going to mortise for this or cut for this and then weld in tabs. The round bolt head requires only a punched hole. Use of strike optional. Special design of guide and flat-sided bolt tip to prevent bolt rotation. They're of course non-handed. Left or right, up or down. Bolt throw is 3/4 inch with 7/8 vertical adjustment, and that's accounted for by the threading that's going to allow you to really tailor that exactly where you're going to want it. When it's retracted, you're going to want the head of the bolt to be just flush with the top of the door, but not so flush that it's going to fall through its guide. You don't want, I've had people call and say, hey, I can't throw the bolt up, and what happens is this is falling down below, and as you're throwing it, it's hitting. It's not going up into the hole, so you'll need to be careful that it's really just like this and never really any different at all. Okay. The bolt back set is 3/4 inch. From the edge of the door to the center of that is going to be 3/4 inch, which is typical and common. And that's where the difficulty comes when you're drilling the edge or the top or bottom of a wood door with that long drill bit to make room for that thread, that bolt, the threaded rod to go in, because you've got a style that could be 1 inch, and that drill bit just wants to seek the less dense material, which is typically particle board, and that drill bit will literally just dive and make it very difficult to get the hole drilled appropriately. Optional rod lengths are listed, as we discussed earlier, for both fire-rated and non-fire-rated applications. References to the dust-proof strikes from Ives, the DP1 or DP2, which are the spring-loaded strikes that can be installed with or without faceplates. UL listed 90-minute polished brass finish. Okay. There's a link finally below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Ives products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, along with a link to the full product catalog. The name Ives is synonymous with all things trim and auxiliary hardware related and has so been for decades. If you have any questions on the Ives FB458 manual top or bottom flush bolt for metal doors, or any other Ives product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.